All right, guys. So there's a story coming out of China, which is very, very, very disturbing, and it's not getting nearly as much press as it deserves. I mean, this deserves sort of hair on fire coverage. It would be legit and would be the correct response for people in the media to be like, holy shit, have you seen what's going on in China right now? So this is in the New York Times. They say China's record drought is drying rivers and feeding its coal habit. Dry weather in southwestern China has crippled huge hydroelectric dams, forcing cities to impose rolling blackouts and driving up the country's use of coal. So look, you're going to see this is the river in question. Look at this. It's just drying up. Like the river is just going away, which is kind of rough if you're dependent on hydroelectric power. So this is the Jialing River. And the facts you're about to hear are astonishing. So, look, I'll just tell you right off the bat. One outlet is reporting this is literally the worst recorded heat wave in human history. Now, when I heard that, I was thinking, well, what are you talking about? Like, we got Death Valley, California. We got all these different deserts around the world. It gets extremely hot in these places. Or like, the heart of some tropical place, right? No, for how high the temperature has been, for the length of time it has been this high, it's the worst in recorded history. That's astonishing. All right, here we go. Car assembly plants and electronics factories in southwestern China have closed for lack of power. Owners of electric cars are waiting overnight at charging stations to recharge their vehicles. Rivers are so low that ships can no longer carry supplies through them. A record-setting drought and an 11-week heat wave are causing broad disruption in a region that depends on dams for more than 3/4 of its electricity generation. Jesus, more than 3/4. The factory shutdowns and logistical delays are hindering China's efforts to revive its economy as the country's leader, Xi Jinping, prepares to claim a third term in power this autumn. The ruling Communist Party is already struggling to reverse a slowdown in China, the world's second largest economy, caused by the country's strict COVID lockdowns and a slumping real estate market. Young people are finding it hard to get jobs, while uncertainty over the economic outlook is compelling residents to save instead of spend and to hold off on buying new homes. Now, the extreme heat is adding to frustration by snarling power supplies, threatening crops, and setting off wildfires. Reduced electricity from hydroelectric dams has prompted China to burn more coal, a large contributor to air pollution and to greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming. Many cities around the country have been forced to impose rolling blackouts or limit energy use. In Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, several neighborhoods went without electricity for more than 10 hours a day. And guys, this is at a time when it's over 100 degrees outside. This leads to death. There will be people who have died as a result of this and will die. This is really, really crazy. Vera Wang, not that Vera Wang, a Chengdu resident, said that just to charge her electric car, her boyfriend waited in a long line overnight at a charging station that was only partly operating. It was 4 a.m. by the time he reached the front of the line. The line was so long that it extended from the underground parking lot to the road outside, she said. The heat wave has scorched China for more than 2 months, stretching from Sichuan in the southwest to the country's eastern coast and sending the mercury above 104 degrees on many days. In Chongqing, a sprawling metropolis in the southwest with around 20 million people, the temperature soared to 113 degrees last week. The first time such a high reading had been recorded in a Chinese city outside the western desert region of Xinjiang. The searing heat set off wildfires in the mountains and forests on Chongqing's outskirts, where thousands of firefighters and volunteers have worked to put out blazes. Residents said the air smelled of acrid smoke. The drought has dried up dozens of rivers and reservoirs in the region and cut Sichuan's hydropower generation capacity by half, hurting industrial production. Volkswagen closed its 6,000-employee factory in Chengdu for the past week and a half, and Toyota temporarily suspended operations at its assembly plant. I've never heard of anything like this, guys. I've never heard of anything like this before, where you have all these factories shutting down and the power grid cut, 50%, and wildfires and so many consecutive days over 100 degrees. I mean, this is crazy. Foxconn, the giant Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, and KATL, the world's largest maker of electric car batteries, have both curtailed production at factories in the vicinity. So again, if you think this doesn't affect the West, think again, bro. Think again. In Ezhou, a city in central China near Wuhan, the Yangtze River is now at its lowest level for this time of year since record-keeping began in 1865. People's Daily, the main newspaper of the Communist Party, reported on August 19th that the Yangtze River had fallen to the same average level it normally reaches at the end of the winter dry season. Wow. But the disruptions from the hydropower shortfall are being felt far from the southwest, including in China's eastern cities, which are buyers of hydropower. Some factories and commercial buildings in cities like Hangzhou and Shanghai are rationing electricity. Kevin Nee, an online marketing worker in Hangzhou, said that his office was stifling because few air conditioners were allowed to run. Quote, "We have to eat ice pops and drink ice drinks," he said. "I just put my hands on the ice pops. That cools me the most." Okay, so now look, this article goes on, and it is one terrifying fact after another. You're witnessing a, society destabilizing drought and heat wave here. And then the scary question arises, well, how often are we going to be faced with stuff like this? How often is stuff like this going to happen? And business as usual becomes totally and utterly unsustainable when stuff like this happens on a regular basis. And we're witnessing it now. Look, I know it's a tired point, but it's one we make over and over for a reason. Climate change is not something that's happening in the distant future or even the near future. Climate change is happening right now. And when you talk about a 50% or 75% reduction in the electric grid, and, you talk about not being able to use an air conditioner when it's over 100 degrees, and you talk about factories shutting down left and right, this makes modern civilization untenable. And we're just talking about one heat wave now. What happens when this is every year this happens in 48 cities around the world? What does that do to the well-being of people on this planet? What does that do to the economy? How does that bode in terms of fresh water supplies? Again, people don't really think about the backlash effect of climate change and all of the little ancillary issues that pop up as a result of it. People think of sea level rise, but they don't think of holy shit, how bad is this going to affect food supply? How bad is it going to affect the water supply? Again, at some point we're going to see wars over water. It's going to happen. And we're just sort of slowly but surely heading into the abyss. We are the frog in the boiling water. And if this doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. Because again, worst heat wave in recorded history. Factories having to shut down, not being able to use AC when it's over 100 degrees. And this is in China, a country that has rapidly developed and, and is relatively well equipped compared to many other countries to handle something like this. Buckle up, man. It's going to get ugly. I mean, look, we know the answers. I don't want to be a broken record, but there has to be a rapid transition to green and renewable technology. And by the way, you could look at it as an opportunity to create millions and millions of jobs so we all get enriched as a result of it. But if we keep going with this status quo, shit, we're in trouble. Apparently, hydroelectric power is not the thing to rely on, right? And so, I mean, I hate to say it, I've always been kind of agnostic on the issue of nuclear energy because I see what happened at Chernobyl. I see what happened at 3 Mile Island. You see what happened at Fukushima. And you go, holy shit, that's really dangerous. Maybe nuclear is not the best way to go. But the fact of the matter is, given the current geopolitical situation, the war in Ukraine, what's going on with gas prices, and the other options that are on the table, it looks like nuclear is a very appealing option. Of course you want to have top of the line regulations and safety protocols in place, but also it is a clean source of energy. And it seems at this point that it's very vital. And by the way, credit to the Inflation Reduction Act, it did increase our reliance on nuclear, which is a lot better given the current state of affairs when it comes to oil and gas. So, I mean, that's looking more and more appealing because this rapid transition needs to happen. And we got to try to avoid situations like this, of which many of them are coming in the near future. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.